All right, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. Before I get started, I'm going to show
Here's
you.
what I found.
Okay. All right, Siri, shut up. All right. So, the big talk now is about this AI, right? It's talking about everybody talking about this chat, GPT, whatever you call it. All right. That's what everybody's talking about today. But I don't trust all the AI stuff real quick. And I'm gonna show you why real quick. This video is not gonna be about this, but I just want to show y'all this, right? So I'm going talking to Siri on my phone, right? And I'm gonna ask this. Hey Siri, what's the original 1828 definition of an American?
As an adjective, American means relating to or characteristic of the United States or its inhabitants. Do you want to hear the next one?
Yes.
As a noun, it means a native or citizen of the United States. Do you want to hear the last one?
Yes.
As a noun, it means the English language as it is used in the United States, American English.
Is that the last one? Hey Siri, what is the original 1828 Webster dictionary?
Here's an answer from Wikipedia. In 1828, Noah Webster published the American Dictionary of the English Language to try to.
Okay. You see, so she refuses to give the 1828 Webster dictionary of an American. Now, I tried so many ways. Watch this. Hey Siri, what was the skin color of the original uh, Native Americans?
I found this on the web.
Hey Siri, could you read the 1828 Webster Dictionary original definition of an American? Could you read it?
I found this on the web.
See? She refuses to read. She refuses to read that definition of an American. But y'all see, she read all the other, anything else as far as an American, who's an American, she read it, right? But she refuses to read this right here. Now I'm gonna pull it up again, and this is crucial. That's why I said I don't trust AI, because it all depends what they program into it. Okay, now I'm gonna put up the original definition of an American right here. Y'all see that? Why couldn't she read that? She refused to say it. Listen, look at that. Y'all see what that says? American noun, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by Europeans, but now applied to descendants of Europeans born in America. Why couldn't she do it? You see what I'm saying? It was that simple. I asked a simple question. Could you read that American Webster's Dictionary 1828 definition of an American? I ask you one more time. Hey Siri, can you read the American original 1828 definition of an American?
I found this on the web.
See? She won't read it. Why not? I mean, she read the other ones. Hey Siri, what's the definition of an American?
As an adjective, American means relating to or characteristic of the United States or its inhabitants. Do you want to hear the next one?
Sure.
As a noun, it means a native or citizen of the United States. Do you want to hear the last one?
Sure.
As a noun, it means the English language as it is used in the United States, American English.
Do y'all see what I'm talking about? So this is something for y'all to see. I did it live in front of y'all so y'all can see about the AI. Okay. why did she refuse to read it? She wouldn't even say what the original people look like. She refused to do it. But she was eager to read those definitions out, and that's because that's what she's been programmed to do. So that was just something for y'all to see. That's not what this video is about, but that was something for y'all to see. I had to show y'all that.
Across the country. 101 years ago, America had what was essentially a purge during the summer of 1919. You've probably never heard about this before because it doesn't fit the apple pie, baseball, Americana stories that we tell ourselves about our past. The Red Summer of 1919 is one of the worst events of racial violence America has ever seen. Black Southerners were moving north to escape the brutal Jim Crow laws of the South. White people saw black people as competition for jobs, homes, and political power. That summer, white mobs started attacking black people while the police and military often joined in. In 61 cities across the country, more than 270 black men, women, and children were burned alive, shot, lynched, or beaten to death by these white mobs. The actual number killed may never be known. Thousands of black families had their homes and businesses burned to the ground. In D.C., white mobs attacked every black man they found. In fact, 2 black men were attacked right in front of the White House. In Chicago, entire black neighborhoods were burned down. This isn't the only black massacre in that time period, but what makes it notable is that black World War I veterans defended their neighborhoods. It's one of the first documented times black people fought back against white riots. 101 years ago, America.
All right, y'all. So y'all see that, right? The real truth of the matter is that these riots were not black people. These are indigenous people. These are the real American people. That's who they were targeting. It was our businesses, our homes, our lands. I thought we were slaves. Yeah, we had towns and businesses and cities. So this video now, this is the opening so you can see what happened. And now I'm going to go over some of the stories of what happened. And again, these are not black people, Negroes, or colored. These are the original Aboriginal Americans. That's who they are. And it just didn't happen in 1919. This was the whole period of what they call Reconstruction, or this was a reset. They were resetting America from the late 1800s all the way into the 1900s. Wiping out towns, cities, and the indigenous Americans, and then taking over their lands.
They're going to always get my support. All these athletes going to always get my support because that's what I do. I support my people. Just like Mexicans support Mexicans, Dominicans support Dominicans. I'm a Black American. I'm always going to support my people first. And I'm always going to be known as a Black American. I can't call myself an African American because when they want to separate us, then they say we are African American. But remember this, when I'm competing in the Olympics, I didn't compete on an African American Olympic team. I competed on an American Olympic team. So don't separate me when you want to separate me. They're going to always get my support. All these athletes going to always get my support because that's what I do. I support my
I'm going to try to hear this one more
like
time.
Mexicans support Mexicans, Dominicans support Dominicans. I'm a Black American. I'm always going to support my people first. And I'm always going to be known as a Black American. I can't call myself an African American because when they want to separate us, then they say we are African American. But remember this, when I'm competing in the Olympics, I didn't compete on an African American Olympic team. I competed on an American Olympic team. So don't separate me when you want to separate me.
If you mosque in America and you just lay your hands on the first person or the third person or the fifth person that you see, you realize that you're laying your hands on a Native American. Believe there were only 8% of the slaves that came to America. So how is it that there's so many more people that they claim are Black or African Americans? I think they got the numbers wrong because a lot of Native Americans are the ones that they're counting as Black folks too.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So we're about to get into it once again. If you watched the last video that I did, it's called the reclassification of the Aboriginal Americans, right? And we're still being reclassified today, as I stated in that last video. And the thing about it is, this reclassification, I blame it on us. It's not the white people's fault. It's our own fault. Why? Because we constantly call ourselves Black. We constantly call ourselves African American, right? That's our own fault. No matter how many people out here that's telling you the truth about your history, you still call yourself Black people. You still call yourself African American. You still call yourself Negro or color. You call yourself all the names that you would name like a dog. And yet you don't understand still. I just made my last video, right? I dealt with Walter Plecker, right? In 1924, the Racial Integrity Act, right? In that document, go back to my last video. He knew that there were Indians still left around, right? And they had to find a way to get rid of everybody else, to reclassify them. And you were reclassified as being colored, Negro, or Black. And remember, like I said before, calling each other Black was fighting words. That's what that was in the past. But no matter what, they always use entertainers like James Brown to make stuff cool. And then all of a sudden now we call ourselves Black people, when that was one of the names that to hide our true identity. We've been blacked out. We've been blacked out everything. Now we just Black people. And I ask you, what country is Black? Do you know the etymology of the word Black? You know it means white, pale, devoid of color, right? I'm not Black. So why do we call ourselves Black? See, this is Black. See, this is Black. Nobody's that color. But we either African American or Black people. What country is colored? What does that mean? See, they called us copper colored, and then they took away the word copper, and now we just colored. Now, in the Racial Integrity Act, what was going on? There was mixing, right? Indigenous Indians, or our people, were mixing in with some of the white folk. And in that document, it said, and the ones who look more white were more dangerous than anything else, passing for white. And they didn't want them in their schools. But y'all don't understand the whole truth of what was going on. So here we are today, calling ourselves Black, Negro, and African American, now in the new name, as of 1988, by Jesse Jackson and the Democratic Party. Yeah, they deemed us African Americans. He said that we preferred to be called African Americans, yet nobody asked us. So that's the new name that we stuck with today. But you go back to the Racial Integrity Act, and you'll see right on the documents, mulatto, Black, Negro, right? But the word African American wasn't there. Nor even the word African. But that's where we stand today. So you're calling yourself to Black based on a document that somebody else named you. And you're good with that. You've been blacked out of your own land in your own history, and you don't even know. And the thing about it is, sometimes I don't even think, a lot of y'all don't even care to know. But here we are, right? And if you look in the 1960s, everything was what? White, or colored, right? On everything. Everything they put out on stores, whatever, it was either white or colored. So my question to you, what's happened to the Indians? What happened to the native people that were supposed to be in this land? Do you follow what I'm saying? You saw so-called colored, because at that time they were called colored or Negro. Black wasn't cool yet, because black was still fighting words. So they called themselves Negro or colored. And colored people could go into one area and the white people go in the other area. What happened to the so-called Native Americans? I want to try to use this right here. Because if you look at the Native Americans, according to what's going on in this country, the 5 civilized tribes, those people on the Dawes Roll are your Native Americans, which is a government organization. But still. So you're trying to tell me that all the people in this, all the indigenous people of this land is now in Oklahoma. That's what they want y'all to believe. Do you know how big America is? Do you know how big the Americas are? See, they came in and divided and started renaming everything or reclassifying the whole landmass from Alaska, Canada, all those are new names, all the way down to South America, the end of it, and the Caribbean. These were the Americas. Right? And they want you to believe that only the people in Oklahoma are now the so-called Native American Indians. But think about that, y'all. This land had millions and millions of people on it. That Dawes Roll wouldn't have been big enough to fit everybody on it. Think about that. So, if only the people that ancestors of the people that signed that Dawes Roll are the only people now that could be considered Indians, then what happened to the other millions of people? What happened to those people? So I know, I'm gonna tell you what happened to those people. They were all reclassified as colored, Negro, or black, because the white folk were still coming in America. And I'm gonna show you that. So that's why it's either white or colored in the 1960s. Because you were now reclassified. If you didn't sign the Dawes Roll, and if you didn't want to sign the Dawes Roll, like most people didn't. And besides that, if you had everybody sign the Dawes Roll, you couldn't fit them all in Oklahoma. It don't even make sense. But that's what they have people to believe today. And most of us fell for it. And people thinking, oh yeah, those people on the reservation, those are your Indians. How foolish is that? That's like going to China, right? How you gonna go to China and so you got billions of people on that landmass, Chinese people, right? Billions of them. And now we're gonna say this: there's a document that you have to sign on to say that you're Chinese, and it's based on the government who the government chooses to be Chinese, right? So they got this document, and this document, your ancestor had to sign it. One of your Chinese ancestors had to sign this thing. Now, if y'all didn't sign it, then you can't be a Chinese person. You're gonna be classified as something else. So that's like taking those people and getting a little group out of those people and then reclassifying the majority of them. Because I'm going to tell you something. In America, the projects are your real reservations. That's where the so-called Indians are. They have been reclassified: colored, Negro, mulatto, Afro-American. We've been named everything. To the point now we've been disenfranchised from the land by calling ourselves African American. If you call yourself an African, then you're giving up rights to your landmass, to your homeland. That's why it's so important that you learn this truth. Because you've been lied to. And it's up to you, nobody else, it's up to you to get yourselves together. So I said I blame us. Because too many people have been putting this information out, and it's enough talk. Y'all know the truth. There's white people that's been telling the truth. They know the truth. The government knows the truth. They know who are the original landowners of this land, and that's why there'll never be reparations. Because if they did, they got to give you the whole country back, because it is yours in the first place. But see, you've been taught the slavery story, roots and all that mess. So now we're about to go over some real historical stuff to show y'all what y'all didn't see in the history books, because they didn't teach you in school. They didn't want to. It's not part of the government curriculum. But it's sad. It really is. And it really is sad. It's our own fault, because we allow this to happen. When all we have to do is just do the research and listen to what some of the brothers and sisters are telling us. You got Dan Calloway out there, right? You got indigenous one. You got so many. I mean, there's so many people telling the truth. I can't even name them all. But I want to show y'all something. Yeah, I spelled that wrong. Check this out. Oops. All right, let's see if I can get some images up. All right, so here's the 1960s, y'all. Y'all see this? Waiting room for colored only, by order of the police department. See that? Waiting room for whites only, order by the police department. Look at this. 1960, Jim Crow, right? White, colored. White, colored. You see that? Where was the Indians at? See? There's the Indian right there. That's the true Indian right there, or indigenous person of America. See? He wasn't signed on the Dawes Roll. His people wasn't on it. Millions of people was on this land. No way you could have fitted them all. So now they've been reclassified as colored at this time in America's history. Now you're a colored person. See? White woman, colored women, here. White men, colored men, different bathrooms, different restrooms and everything. So that's the way they had it set up back then. Here's another. Look at this. Colored waiting room. See, it didn't say African. They called you colored. See? Drinking fountains. Colored must sit in the balcony. Restrooms, white. Restrooms, colored. White, colored. Now, why did they do that? See, we were taught in history that that we wanted to integrate with them, right? But that's not the truth. A lot of that stuff that you saw, the sit-ins, that was all the. Do you know that there was a cameraman there? How was the cameraman there to capture all that as you watching it, right? It was all a setup. If you talk to majority of people, they'll tell you they did not want to integrate, but the government did want us to integrate. Do you know we were doing fine? Yes, businesses, schools, hospitals, we had everything. And we always had everything, as y'all about to see in this video. But now, the so-called African Americans or Black at this time, or the Indians, have now been, at this time in history, were called colored people. And to see, if those so-called Native Americans that's on the reservations were true, then there would be so many of them, and you would see them everywhere. But who do you see everywhere? You see us everywhere. Because you couldn't get rid of all of us. Because you've been trying to the whole time. And I'm going to show this in this video. This is fact. And I'm going to show you who was coming in, who they were bringing into America. So this is really something to see. Everybody knows about this. What I'm about to type. Black Wall Street, right? This is the Black Wall Street massacre. This happened in 1921. Now I want y'all to think about something. It was President Andrew Jackson. You know the guy on the $20 bill? That Andrew Jackson, who was called the Trail of Tears, where they marched the so-called Indians across into Oklahoma. And that was in the 1830s, I believe. Right? In 1921, though, before 1921, of course, this Black Wall Street was destroyed. They sort of called Black Wall Street. This was indigenous people. These people are not slaves. They didn't come off a slave ship and jump on and cross all across America and go into Oklahoma and decide to make a business district. These are not free slaves that got together, as they try to tell you. That's not what happened here. In 1921, they devastated Black Wall Street over false accusations about a white woman. And also the government, what they don't tell you, they bombed it from the air. Our people were winning at first when the white folk came, and then they got the military involved. But I'm not gonna read this whole story, but I'm gonna get into it a little bit. The devastation of so-called Black Wall Street. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. A wave of racial violence destroys affluent. There you go. Stop it right there. You see that? African-American community. Now, if those people from 1921, nobody from 1921 called themselves an African-American. Remember what I told y'all from the last video. Barack Obama went in, I think it was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, and he went in there where everywhere you see they had Negro or colored or whatever, down they're going back in the documents and they're rewriting everything and they're inserting the word African-American. And this is the hijack. So now when your children go to school in the curriculum, now they're going to see African-Americans inserted everywhere. But this is our own fault. Because every time there's a new name, we accept it, don't we? We don't even go against it. Every time they give us a new name, we accept the new name. So now it's all in the documents. African American. There was no African Americans in the United States. What are we? How do we become two continents? It's a bunch of bull crap. To be established that deep, these are indigenous people. 1921, they didn't just establish those businesses in that year, 1921. This was going on all across America at the same time. So they only talk about this one. But it was a whole bunch more, y'all. In 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood District, known as Black Wall Street, was known as Black Wall Street to whom? To white folk. Because we didn't call ourselves black. See, that's another hijack. But we all got it ingrained in our heads that that's what it was called, Black Wall Street. No, white folk called it Black Wall Street. Let's get that right. It was one of the most prosperous, here we go, African-American communities in the United States. Now you see that? You see the hijack? Already, we can't even get started in the story now. Now, before, when you read this stuff back in the past, you didn't see the name African-American. It didn't exist. I can't stand that name. Listen, Jesse Jackson, we hate the name African-American because that's not who we are, and you know it. But on May 31st of the year, the Tulsa Tribune reported that a black man, Dick Rowland, attempted to rape a white woman, Sarah Page. Whites in the area refused to wait for the investigative process to play out, sparking 2 days of unprecedented racial violence. 35 city blocks went up in flames. It was more than 300 people. 300 people died, 800 injured. Defense of white female virtue was expressed motivation for the collective racial violence. Really? So you see, I'm gonna show y'all there's a pattern. They use that all over the place. But this was a plan throughout the 1900s. And I think I'm gonna be able to demonstrate that today to show y'all that throughout this time period, this was all planned. They did this everywhere. Anywhere we were successful, and because we think about it, we wasn't killing each other. We wasn't murdering, we wasn't raping. We were business people, had communities, everything, right? They want to make us believe that we can't get along, that we couldn't get along, that we could never build anything. Now, I'm gonna say this in this video. Every time we built something, they destroyed it. They tore it down, and I'm gonna show it to you today. Accounts vary on what happened between Page and Rowland, and y'all know nothing happened in that elevator. Accounts vary on what happened between Page and Rowland in the elevator of the Drexel building. Yet, as a result of the Tulsa Tribune's racially inflammatory report, black and white armed mobs arrived at the courthouse. No, see, they call the black people mobs. They were there to defend themselves. Since the blacks were outnumbered, they headed back to Greenwood, but the enraged whites were not far behind, looting and burning businesses and homes along the way. The state of Oklahoma had only 2 airports, yet 6 black families owned their own planes. Wow. 9,000 people became homeless. This modern, majestic, sophisticated, and unapologetic Black community boasted of banks, hotels, cafes, clothiers, I guess places where they sell clothes, movie theaters, contemporary homes, not to mention luxuries such as indoor plumbing and remarkable school system that superiorly educated indigenous children. I'm not going to say Black. Undoubtedly, less fortunate white neighbors resented their upper class lifestyle as a result of the jealous desire to be progressive, high achieving, and here they go, African Americans, no, indigenous Americans in their place. To put progressive, high achieving indigenous Americans in their place. A wave of domestic white terrorism caused Black dispossession. So, and what happened? We lost all of their lands. They lost everything. And the government, as they were losing the battle, they came in and dropped bombs. Y'all read the rest of this story, because I think a lot of y'all know about this Black Wall Street, right? But I'm gonna show y'all other stories. I'm not gonna get deep in on this one because y'all can go look it up yourselves and see what actually happened. But did y'all know this was going on all through the 1900s? Yes, it was going on all through the 1900s. All right, y'all. So here's another. Now I'm showing y'all some real history of the Americas. August 14th, 1908, Springfield Massacre. The Springfield Massacre, traditionally called Springfield Race Riot of 1908, was committed against, there we go, the hijack, African Americans by a mob of 5,000 white people in Springfield, Illinois, between August the 14th and 14th to 16th, 1908. So 5,000 white people, y'all. They were the African Americans. You see the hijack? Again, there was no such thing. Even in the 1924 Racial Integrity Act, there wasn't no such thing as an African American. You see what Obama did? So now when you go back and read these things, you're going to see African American as if we were Africans. But I'm going to prove it in this video who we really are. Now listen. I'm not going to say, I'm going to say indigenous Americans, okay? Y'all see the word African Americans here. I'm saying indigenous Americans. I'm not going with this foolishness. Indigenous Americans were killed and their homes and businesses were burned to the ground, as described at blackpast.org. Now, hold on. Do y'all see what I see? I know y'all don't, so let me say what I'm talking about. In 1908, what was destroyed? Our homes and businesses. I thought they were slaves. So in 1908, in order to have businesses, they must have been up for years. If they had homes, they didn't just build a home in 1908 and got burnt the same year. These were our areas. Let's read this. Okay. Some Springfield indigenous fought back in self-defense. They shot back when fired upon. And the first victim of the lynch mob, Scott Burton, used his shotgun in an attempt to save his life and home. The second victim lynched was an 84-year-old carver named William Donegan, whose reputation had been tainted in the eyes of the mob by the fact that he had been married to a white woman for over 30 years. Now think about that, y'all. Now think about the Racial Integrity Act of 1924. What was he concerned about? The indigenous Indian people intermingling or marrying with white folk. And he said the most dangerous thing of all was what? if they almost look white, passing for white. Go look at my last video. That's all you got to do. Oh, just look up the Racial Integrity Act yourself. Do your own homework. Look it up yourself. You see it. It's in there. So he was married to a white woman for 30 years. So obviously you're looking at a town that was been there for over 30 years. So go take 30 years back from 1908, according to how long he'd just been married. That shows you who the original landowners of America were. And I'm going to show y'all, do this. Just watch. When the carnage finally ended, six indigenous people were shot and killed. 2 were lynched and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property destroyed. About 2,000 indigenous people were driven out of the city of Springfield as a result of the riot. What happened to them? They were driven out. So as they were driven out of their city, then who took over their city? This was going on all across America. This event was one of the catalysts for the formation of the NAACP, as described in the APR story. I'm not going to read that story. All right. The Springfield riots stand as a prototype for many smaller riots that left communities all white between 1890 and 1940. So they telling on themselves, if you got ears to hear, right? And eyes to see. So after the riots, the cities became what? All white. So what were they before? African Americans, right? Doesn't this destroy the slave story pretty much? Can't y'all see what I'm saying? These people had cities and towns. There were no white people in there. Except the one guy, he married a white woman because white people were newly coming to America still. And the cities and towns were owned because we were here. Listen, the Springfield riot stands as a prototype for many smaller riots that left communities all white between 1890 and 1940, most of which have never been written about by any historian. Indeed, the Springfield riot itself spawned a host of imitators. White shouted, "Give them Springfield," during attacks on, here we go, and no, forget that, indigenous Americans. The Illinois State Register reported at Auburn, there, Verdun, Garrard, Pawnee, Spalding, Buffalo, Riverton, Pana, Edinburgh, Taylorville, Pleasant Plains, and a score of other places in central Illinois as a Negro, central Illinois, a Negro is an unwelcome visitor and is soon informed he must not remain in the town. Buffalo, a little town 12 miles east of Springfield, became all white on August 17th, 1908, 2 days after the National Guard ended the Springfield riot. Not to be outdone by Springfield, whites in Buffalo posted the following ultimatum at the train station: all niggers are warned out of town by Monday, 12 m sharp. Buffalo sharpshooters. Do y'all see that? So who was there first? Was it white people? Did we get off the slave ships? No, we had towns and cities. We had establishment. We had civilization. And in today's world, And where we are today, they talking about we can't do anything. We don't get along. Right? You hear all kinds of stories like that now. But the truth was, and the truth is, that our people were being slaughtered all during these time frames. Let's get another one. Mm-mm-mm. All right, let's see this. Here we go. The Red Summer in Chicago. What year? July 27, 1919. The Chicago riot began on July 27, 1919. It was one extremely deadly and destructive instance of white rage that fueled mob violence across the United States during the Red Summer of 1919. July 27 was a Sunday, and it was a hot one. That meant the beaches of Lake Michigan were the place for working people and their families. The beach were segregated, not by any law on the books, but by custom will be enforced by the police. When a group of our people and women defied customs and tried to swim at the white beach on the 29th Street, they were driven off by a white mob throwing rocks. They returned with larger numbers. The white mob also grew. Unaware of the violence taking place by the 29th Street beach, five indigenous teenagers were enjoying the water on a raft and floating toward the part of the lake. A white man on the shore, George Stauber, began throwing rocks at the boys. One of the teens, Eugene Williams, was hit in the head with a rock and drowned. Wow. The white police officer on duty at the beach, Daniel Callahan, refused to arrest Stauber. It was not uncommon for the ethnic white Irish police officers to ignore white on black crime in the city, and that fact touched a raw nerve. Reportedly, 1,000 black Chicagoans assembled at the 29th Street beach and demanded the police arrest Stauber for murder. They refused to arrest him. A black man named James Crawford opened fire on a group of police officers. Crawford was immediately shot and killed, but the crowd did not disperse, and other individuals began to attack. This is not how it went. By whites. By nightfall, rumors of race war in the white neighborhoods were running rampant, and rioting began. The rioting lasted almost a whole week. By the end of the first week of August, at least 38 people were dead, 23 black, 15 white, and over 500 were seriously wounded. Thousands of black homes were looted and damaged, many targeted of arson. So y'all see, where did all these black people get their homes and stuff from? What was going on in the 1900s? And I'm gonna show y'all what was going on. There are many resources about infamous Chicago riots and its causes, including, I'm not gonna read African American nothing, because I don't want to see nothing about no African Americans. Y'all know I'm not doing that. Okay, so I'm gonna get one better on that story. Let's go to this one right here. All right, here's one, 1896. And this was the August 5th, 1896 Polk County massacre. Listen to these massacres, y'all. On August 5th, 1896, white workers attacked black workers in Arkansas who were coming to work on the Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Gulf Railway. As a result, here we go. Oh boy, they messed up. Y'all see what they did? Like I said, they inserted African American everywhere. Y'all know in 1896, there was no such thing. Y'all know that, right? I'm gonna keep saying this through this video because I want y'all to get that through y'all heads. And that's why I keep saying out here, please, y'all, stop calling yourself African American. Let's put that to rest. Let's stop calling ourselves black people and African American. Let's stop letting other people name us. All right. As a result, 3 indigenous Americans were killed and 8 wounded. Although reports place some of the events near Horatio, accounts clearly stated that the purpose of the attack was to keep indigenous Americans out of Polk County, and so was generally referred to as Polk County Race War. This was part of the pattern labor-related racial terrorism that was sweeping across Arkansas at that time. Continue reading. Okay, I don't want to read it. Okay. So I'm gonna get it to something. Now let's look at this paper, the real newspaper that was next to it. This so-called story: race war in Arkansas. 3 Negroes killed, 8 wounded, and others banished. See, several Negroes have passed through this place who were forced to leave the county, and they bring news of pretty bad conditions of affairs. The trouble is between white and black laborers employed on the grading works of the Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Gulf Railway near Horatio, Arkansas. The white laborers are determined that the Negroes shall not work on the road and are being backed up by citizens of the county who have armed themselves for the purpose of running the Negroes out. So you see, now this was in Arkansas, 1896, right? They've been banishing us and running us out from our own homes and our own areas. So where's the Native American again, y'all? This is 1896. So where's the Indian? The ones that's on the reservation today that's coming to be the indigenous American Indians. Like I told y'all, it's always been so-called black and white or colored and white. Why? Because we were already here. And these stories are proving it. We had towns and cities and everything. See, when you watch movies like Roots and all that bull crap, that's all made up. It's Hollywood. I'm showing you the truth. We had businesses and these people were coming in and we was already working in the same jobs. It's crazy. 1910. Right? July 29th, 1910, Slocum Massacre in Texas. Let's look at this. The 1910 Slocum Massacre in East Texas officially saw between 8 and 22, here we go again, African Americans. Y'all see why y'all cannot let them do this to us. In all the stories, they're inserting the word African American. But when you read the story itself, you can see the hijack. Just read the story. And for those who understand, will understand. Okay? But I'm not going to use the word African American. I'm putting indigenous American because that's who we are. The 1910 Slocum Massacre in East Texas officially saw between 8 and 22 indigenous Americans killed. And evidence suggests casualties were 10 times these amounts, and I believe that's the truth. Yet the massacre has become a dirty Lone Star secret, remarkable more for the attention it has received than for its remembrance. It's been a secret. It's been hushed. Unlike most Texas communities in the early 1920s and the early 20th century, the unincorporated town of Slocum, like Rosewood, Florida, was largely an indigenous American with several indigenous citizens, considerable property, and a few owning stores and other businesses. Hello. Am I making myself clear now? It was ours. We were already there. We had cities, towns, stores, we had structure, we had community, we had civilization. And who came in all these places and destroyed it? Who? Let's read. I'm gonna read that one more time. Unlike most Texas communities in early 20th century, the unincorporated town of Slocum, like Rosewood, Florida, was largely indigenous Americans, with several indigenous citizens considerable, propertied, that means they got a lot of property, own a lot of properties, and a few owning stores and other businesses. This alone, in part of the South, might have been enough to foment violence. But in the area around Slocum, roughly 100 miles east of Waco, there were other issues according to the newspaper reports and others sometimes conflicting accounts of the massacre. So again, you got our people doing well, owning businesses, and guess who was upset about it? Guess who felt like, how dare these people own businesses like this? They're beneath us. So they were upset that they were peasants and we owned everything. But why shouldn't we? It was our country, or it is our country, right? Listen, when a white man reportedly tried to collect a disputed debt from a well-regarded indigenous citizen, a confrontation occurred. Hard feelings lingered when a regional road construction foreman put an indigenous American in charge of rounding up help for local road improvements. A prominent white citizen named Jim Spurger was infuriated and became an agitator. Rumors spread warning of threats against Anglo citizens and plans for race riots. See, here go the lies again. So now they said that we were going to riot against them, when in turn, that's all they really wanted. Rumors spread warning of threats against Anglo citizens, plans for race riots. White malcontents manipulated the local Anglo population, and on July 29th, white hysteria transmogrified into bloodshed. Stocked and goaded by Spurger and others, a collection of white mobs made up of Slocum locals and heavily armed white residents from all over Anderson County roamed through the areas in groups of 6 or 7, or in mobs 30 to 40, and according to some reports, up to 200. Members of the mobs engaged in what authorities later termed as pot shots occasion, fired on indigenous Americans at will. They moved from road to road and cabin to cabin, shooting down indigenous Americans in their tracks. Survivors of the bloodshed spread the word, and indigenous Americans began fleeing. The white mobs followed indigenous people into the surrounding forests and marshes and shot many victims in the backs and as they fled. Several bodies were discovered with bundles of clothing and personal effects at their sides. So we were running from our homes, just like Rosewood. These people came into America, saw what we had, saw what we were doing. We were successful. And the savages came to America. This is the history that you have not been told. I'm gonna keep reading. Several bodies were discovered with bundles of clothing and personal effects at their sides. Every initial newspaper report on the transpiring bloodshed portrayed the indigenous Americans as armed instigators, but the accounts were heinous mischaracterizations. Anderson County Sheriff William H. Black of Palestine, Texas. Wow, Palestine, y'all, Texas. So What they were trying to say, that we were the instigators, when the sheriff even knew that was a lie. We were peaceful people. Okay. And Special Deputy Godfrey Reeves' father arrived in Slocum area as they discovered a terrified white populace, most of whom had slept overnight in churches and schoolhouses. But it was increasingly apparent that the alleged African American or Indigenous American mob that had supposedly conspired to attack the local white community hadn't materialized. When reporters gathered on July 31st, up to 24 murders had been reported, but local authorities had only 8 bodies. Sheriff Black said it would be difficult to find out just how many were killed because they were scattered all over the woods, and buzzers would find many of the victims first. Men were going up. This is his own words. Men were going about killing Negroes as fast as they could find them, Sheriff Black told the New York Times. See? So you see the hijacking the article? How they put African American, Barack Obama, whatever, he authorized for them to do. See, there was nobody called an African American. They called them what? Out of his own. Men were going about killing Negroes as fast as they could find them, Sheriff Black told the New York Times. See the copper colored people that were originally found here were considered as Negroes. They didn't want to say that these are the Indigenous Americans, so they made up their own Indigenous Americans. And then they renamed their true Indigenous Americans Negroes or colored or black or now African American. See, look at that. These Negroes have done no wrong that I can discover, Black continued. I don't know how many were in the mob, but may have been 200 to 300. They hunted the Negroes down like sheep. These are his words. The truth is, harrowing number of Indigenous Americans were slaughtered in the counties of the Anderson and Houston in the mid-summer of 1910. Yet today is almost never spoke of, much less widely acknowledged. Sufficiently researched of historic considered, including its omission in a Sentinel History of Anderson County, Texas, 1936. See, they omitted it. How much more do I got to keep showing y'all? They keep saying the same thing over and over again. These white mobs were coming in and destroying our towns and our cities. They murdered the people and then took over their houses and lands. And they own this stuff today. And then so if you see one of us walking in their neighborhood, the police pull you over, boy, what you doing in this neighborhood? The whole neighborhood belongs to us. The country is ours. Look at the time frame of all these things took place. Here's one in Washington, D.C. Check this out. July 19th, 1919. White mobs in uniform attack, here we go, African Americans who fight back in Washington, D.C. Who, boy, I'm going to keep saying it. I got to. If they're going to keep putting African American everywhere, I'm going to keep saying this over and over again because I want y'all to get it. There's no such thing as an African American. That name was created in 1988 by Jesse Sellout Jackson. That's who created that name. The same man that was with Martin Luther King, right? The same man that I told you in the last video that Sam said he had something to do with it. King was killed in 1968, and 1988, we became African Americans. 1977, though, the movie Roots came out, and I reproved it and showed you y'all that was a false movie. So please, y'all, if they play that this month, don't watch that crap. That wasn't true. That was a fake story that Harold Corlander created. He wrote a book called The African. Go look it up. Now let's read this right here. Here's another one. Now, what am I proving to y'all? This has been going on during this time framing all over America and all the different states. So we like to think about just so-called Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. No, this has been going on all across the United States, proving that we were already here. Listen to this. On Saturday, July 19, a major race riot broke out across Washington, D.C. as white mobs attacked the indigenous American community and indigenous American soldiers returning from World War I. The mob was retaliating against an alleged assault on a white woman. Same thing, y'all. How many times we got it? What happened with Emmett Till? Supposedly whistled at a white woman, right? I mean, they're using the same thing over and over again. The mob was retaliating against an alleged assault of a white woman, Elsie Stefanik, by an indigenous man, Charles Rawls. Elsie's husband was a white civilian employee of the Navy. Hundreds of white sailors, soldiers, and Marines formed a mob in uniform. Charles Rawls was found late Saturday evening, David Krugler writes, in 1919, the year of the racial violence. The mob spotted Rawls walking with his wife and began beating them. The couple broke free and bolted home, shots ringing out behind them. The mob tried to break in, but Rawls' neighbors and friends rallied to his defense. So that's when our people stepped up. A return full side scattered the mob and wounded a sailor. So our people came out their houses, saw what was going on, and they came out and fought back and wounded a sailor. Servicemen fired back, and indigenous residents locked their doors and prepared to defend their homes. Now, hold on. We had homes? See, when you look at the history today, they made you think that we didn't have nothing. They made us thought that we were just slaves, and they let us go, and we were just laundering around, and we didn't have anything. No, all these articles are proving and showing you that we were here first. There was no Native American Indians, the ones on the reservation, they didn't exist. And they don't exist out here today. Look around your neighborhoods. You don't see none of them people. But you see us. The projects are full of us all over this nation. We have been gentrified. Colonization is now gentrification. It's the same thing. We are losing our land, our homes. Colonization is gentrification. It's just no name. Ain't nothing changed. They still bringing immigrants in America to replace us. They're bringing in all these people. All these people. They're bringing in the Spanish on purpose. They act like they fighting against it. Man, you're not fooling nobody with that. You're not fooling us with that. That's why you got on, when you buy a box or something, you buy something new, look inside all the languages that's inside now. Of the different languages. You know, you can't even get a job unless you're bilingual. Spanish speaking, they're bringing them in here purposely. It's not, they're trying to act like we're fighting again. No, they're bringing them in. They're bringing immigrants from all over. It's funny how everybody come here from all around the world. How you leave your homeland to come here? And everybody just settle in like nothing. Like they been here all the time, and they still look down on us and say, oh, well, but you people. No, what y'all don't understand, America is our land. It's our home. And we're being replaced. This is sad, but it's the truth. Let me keep reading. No, let me get something straight. I know, man, you're racist. Man, I'm not racist. How am I racist? I'm just showing you the truth. Who's racist is the one who didn't teach it in school. In your books, in your curriculum, right? You're not going to see this on the news. You're not going to see this month in so-called Black Wall Street. It's going to be Black History Month. You're not going to hear none of this. You're going to hear about Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, that kind of stuff. You're going to see some slave movies. And everybody believing they were slaves. Y'all had towns and cities and everything. And that's how you misinform generations, because now we go to their schools. The whites own all the schools. So now you teach them the government curriculum, history, and you brainwash them. Oh no, son, you were Black. Oh no, you're not a Native American, you're Black. Oh no, you were slaves. No, we owned everything. We brought y'all here. And so you go to generation and generation to teach that crap. That's why everybody believe it. And they know this. They understand psychology. But I'm bringing out the facts. This is the truth-seeking network. We get to the root. That's why the word truth, you got the root inside of that. And it's not the movie Roots, because that's a lie. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm shouting, but you would too, because you got to understand. That's why people are so frustrated and mad. Because when you know all this truth, and you see the lies all around you, and everybody just smiling and giggling and laughing around like in this illusionary world, it's all fake. All your towns and cities have been burned down. Sad. On Sunday, July 20th, the violence continued to grow, in part because the 700-member Metropolitan Police Department failed to intervene. It's funny how that always happened to us, don't it? Nothing changed. The 700-member Metropolitan Police Department failed to intervene. Indigenous Americans faced brutal beatings in the streets of Washington, at the Center Market on 7th Street Northwest, and even in front of the White House. By the late hours of Sunday night, July 20th, the Indigenous American community began to fight back. While there were no reported casualties that night, dozens were hospitalized. The Washington Post stoked the fires on Monday with an incendiary front page story that included a notice about a 9 p.m. assembly of servicemen to finish what they had started, an assembly that would cause the events of the last 2 evenings to pale into insignificance. Indigenous Washingtons took the Post article seriously. They requested official protection from the government, but the state and federal government officials refused. See, there you go. They refused. They responded by preparing for an attack by arming themselves. So we armed ourselves. When the police found out that the arms dealers sold around 500 firearms that day, they shut down legal gun sales, and residents turned to the black market. The violence that broke out Monday night between Indigenous Washingtonians armed for self-defense. See, we wasn't armed to go out and destroy white folk. Self-defense. And enraged white Washingtonians, many of them uniformed military men, lasted through Tuesday. After 4 days of violence and lukewarm interest by the police to stop the mob, President Woodrow Wilson finally ordered nearly 2,000 soldiers from nearby military bases into Washington to suppress the rioting. The violence resulted in approximately multiple deaths. We found reports from 4 to 38 on the number, and over 100 injuries suffered by individuals of both races. See, both races. What races are those? What? Huh? Oh, African American, colored, Negro, right? Indian, all the same thing. And white. Where was the Native Americans at again? The ones that Hollywood gave you on the cowboy Indian movies, fake movies, by the way. See? On both sides. The riot was one in 20 this riot was one of 20 race riots across the nation during the so-called Red Summer, but was distinguished by strong organized Black resistance to white violence. Our people stood up and fought back. So it was going all across there. And I'm gonna tell you why this was going. Now look at I forgot to show y'all. Look at the newspaper. Here you go. Here's the original paper. Riots again break out in the national capital. Marines kills Negro. Where's the word African American at? City detective shot by colored woman. Many are injured. You see what they did to us? Colored, Negro, Black, all the same, African, now African American. See at the top of the article right here? But you notice that name African American is new. See, now that's our new name. But never before we were ever called this African person. Now, let me show y'all. Then there were way more than this, y'all. Should I do another one? I'll do one more. Y'all know about Rosewood already. So I'm gonna do one that we don't. Let's do a Lane massacre. September 30th, right here. We do this one. All right. September 30th, 1919, Elaine Massacre. On September 13th, 1919, Black farmers or indigenous farmers met in Elaine, Arkansas with Robert L. Hill to establish the Progressive Farmers Household Union of America to fight for better pay and higher cotton prices. See, y'all don't understand. Dan Calloway was so absolutely right that everything had to do with fair pay. We were not slaves in the cotton field like y'all think. Those stories, go ask when you ask the real history of your families, you will find out that that's not true. Most people were just indentured servants or they were working on a farm, but they wasn't being whipped and all that kind of stuff. That's not true. We owned everything. And I'm gonna show you what happened. Right? Let's keep going. Progressive farmers, Americans had to fight for better pay and higher cotton prices. A white mob, here we go, shot at them, and the farmers returned fire in self-defense. So where do these so-called slaves get guns from? Since we weren't supposed to have guns, right? How did we get that? We fired back. See, they want to make you believe that we were just being whipped and beat and chased all over the place, and we were begging, yes, massa, yes, ma'am. No, see, that's not us. But see, if you put that in somebody's head and you brainwash the people believing that crap, because that's all it is crap. A white mob shot at them and the farmers returned fire in self-defense. News of confrontation spread and a massacre ensued, leaving more than 100, estimated up to 800 indigenous Americans dead. 67 indicted for inciting violence, and 12 Blacks or sharecroppers sentenced to death. Not only were indigenous Americans massacred, they were also blamed for the event and charged with murder. The Elaine massacre occurred at the end of Red Summer of 1919, a series of brutal attacks on indigenous Americans. See, they put African American everywhere. I can't even, y'all watching the video, y'all can see where my cursor is, how many times they now replaced the word African American everywhere. Although in the real articles and in newspapers, you see that it says nothing about an African American. And that's why I said we must stop this now. A series of brutal attacks on indigenous Americans, more than 36 cities, including Chicago, Washington, D.C., Norfolk, Knoxville, and more cities. Let's read. Elaine Massacre defendants, Ed Hicks, Frank Moore, J.C. Knox, Ed Coleman, Paul Hall, Scipio A. Jones, and the group's counsel stands to the left. Butler Center of Arkansas Studies. Wow. They weren't no slaves, y'all. Look at them men. So y'all see now what's going on. Now, now I said to y'all, now why did all this happen? Why was this taking place? I'm gonna show y'all why. Look who was coming to America in the 1900s. All these people, all these white people were coming to America. U.S. immigrants timeline in 1900s. Look at the ships. All these people were in flooding. So what y'all think was going to happen during the late 1800s and 1900s when all these people were coming in? Look at all these people coming on the ship. This is when they were flooding America with immigrants from all over Europe, coming in America, taking over and stealing lands. And this is exactly what they were doing. They came over here in the Americas and they stole the lands. And the thing about it is, it's a shame. They came over here on these ships. Immigrants coming to America, and that's what they're not telling y'all. See, they originally just got here. They just got here. And see, but we've been told that no, they've been here and they brought us here.
I don't know what you mean by, hey Siri, but we were told.
I don't know why. You hear Siri, now she want to start talking. See how she tried to interrupt me? But I want to show you all these pictures, right? Look at all these people coming to America, y'all. Immigrants on deck of SS America, Library of Congress. Look at this. Look at all these immigrants. This was going on during this time frame. Look at this. Immigration Archive. These people were coming all across to fill up America. And so what you think was going to happen when they came in contact with the so-called indigenous people that was already here? And then they were peasants, by the way, coming to America, and they felt like that they deserved what we had. And so they murdered and killed and took it. And these are the facts. So they want to make you think the immigrants came and they came over here and they just started building. No, they came over here and took over what was already here. We had it already. These are your real immigrants coming to America, y'all. So during that time frame, that's what was going on. America was being flooded with new immigrants from Europe and all over the place, and they were coming in shiploads. So as you can see throughout the findings, you see it was between two different types of people. You were either what? Colored, black, or Negro, or white. But who started all the fights? The white mobs. Who did nothing? The government. They allowed it. And so, and just like in all these places like Rosewood and everywhere else, we were ran out of our lands. Some places it was totally wiped out. And they just set up camp and moved in. Took over the cities and everything, and now you believe it's all theirs. And it's not true. They came and took over everything. Now, these articles prove and show you that the cities and towns and businesses, we already had them. And they weren't African Americans. No African came off the slave ship and all of a sudden they start owning businesses and stores. Come on, y'all. Use your brain. But these people were coming in during this time. And this was going on systematically across the country. And guess what? And in 1921, it happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So this was planned throughout the United States to take over our lands, our businesses, our towns, our cities. Some places they wiped them out. Hardly anybody left to tell a tale. So am I being racist for telling this truth? Because I didn't learn it in school. Now we are Africans in our own land. Everybody looking down on us. So this right here is to enlighten white people, black people, or so-called black people, indigenous people, Asian people. This video is for everybody. So now when you people come to America, don't look down on the so-called African Americans. Because you coming into our home. And we didn't invite you, the government did. But they know what they're doing. They did that to put you all on top. And we are falling far behind. All our cities and places where we live have now been so-called gentrified. We've been kicked out of our own places. And this is going all across the country. And it's sad. It's sad. There's so many places that these riots happen in. I mean, and they've been doing this ever since they came to America. And this is the true history, or the so-called Black history in America. We can go all the way back to when they first got here, the wars, the Indian wars, so-called, where they were fighting against us, you know, putting smallpox in the blankets. Look, I'm gonna show y'all this. Check out this. Devil's Punch Bowl. Y'all ever heard of Devil's Punch Bowl? Well, you're about to today. All right, y'all. So if y'all haven't heard about the Devil's Punch Bowl, Let me tell you what it's all about. And they're going to read it right here. And this happened in Mississippi. The Devil's Punch Bowl episode is remembered on this date in 1865. The post-American Civil War episode in indigenous history occurred in Natchez, Adams County, Mississippi. As indigenous people, I'm not going to say black slaves, okay? Because that's the narrative, like somebody putting in African American. Y'all know what's going on. They were stealing, and we were losing our lands at this time still. They were still murdering and killing us, and we were fighting back. Okay, just like you saw in all these other stories, we were fighting back, right? As indigenous slaves, indigenous people made their way to freedom, to town of Natchez quickly went from a population of 10,000 to nearly 100,000 people to deal with the population influx of recent freedmen. A concentration camp was established by Union soldiers to eradicate the slaves essentially. See, we weren't slaves. Who was they trying to eradicate? The indigenous Americans, like they always been. Don Estes, former director of Natchez City Cemetery, said, so they decided to build an encampment form at Devil's Punch Bowl, which they walled off and wouldn't let them out. So they blocked them in and they wouldn't let us out. The camp was called the Devil's Punch Bowl because of how the area was shaped. The camp was at the bottom of a hollow pit with trees on the bluff above. The women and children were locked behind the concrete walls of the camps and left to die from starvation. Many also died from smallpox disease. Over 20,000, they say free slaves. No, we weren't free slaves. Y'all see the hijack? These were indigenous Americans, our people. Over 20,000 indigenous Americans were killed inside this American concentration camp in 1 year. Black men or indigenous men were recaptured by the Union troops and forced back into hard labor. So you see what they said, many also died from the smallpox disease? No, that smallpox disease was put in there to kill them. Smallpox didn't just pop up in there. See, when they brought blankets as gifts early on in American history, you would see when they first got here to our people, they gave them a blanket and they had smallpox in the blankets and they purposely gave it to us and wiped out men. They've been spreading disease for a very long time. Purposely. Smallpox and just end up out of there. So don't believe that. See, now we have brains. We know what's going on. All right? So that's not what happened. Smallpox didn't just show up. Yeah, but they wouldn't let them out. They let them starve to death and disease kill them. Researcher Paula Westbrook adds the Union Army did not allow them to remove the bodies from the camp. They just gave them shovels and said bury them where they drop. Today, the bluffs are known for the wild peach groves, but the locals will not eat any of the fruit because some are aware of what has fertilized the trees. Estes said that during his studies, he learned that women and children were all but left to die in 3 punch bowls. Disease broke out among them, smallpox being the main one, and thousands died. They were begging to get out. Turn me loose and I'll go home, back to the plantation, anywhere but there. One researcher had noted that the skeletal remains still wash up when the area becomes flooded by the Mississippi River at the Devil's Punch Bowl. That's a brief synopsis of the Devil's Punch Bowl. These were indigenous people that were killed. They were not slaves. Now y'all know the hijacks. We were not slaves. They were here making sure they wipe us out and taking over our lands. Today we are called what? A minority. You calling yourself, so again, I blame us today to wake our children up Stop calling yourself an African American. Stop calling yourself Black people, because you've been blacked out of your own history. And why haven't they showed this to you? And even in where you read some of the articles, y'all saw what they said. They left it out on purpose. Yeah, I'm gonna show y'all something else. I'm gonna give y'all more history. All right, so y'all see what's on my page, right? 5 Black American or indigenous towns hidden under lakes, and ultimately from history books. Now, how do we have towns, y'all? See, I need y'all to use your brains. How did we have indigenous? See, they want to call it Black towns, but you're not gonna black me out. We are indigenous Americans, right? And we had towns, and they're hidden underwater. How do we have them if we were slaves, y'all? All you gotta do is think. How do we have towns if we were slaves? And cities and businesses? And we just got let go in 1865. How did we build towns and stuff that quick? You see the hijack of the history? Because as Michael Jackson says, the history books are lies. They are all lies. He was right. And I'm proving it to you now. I need y'all to wake up. I'm begging y'all to wake up. And I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about even the white folk. Y'all need to wake up. And all of y'all have, and a lot of y'all are telling the truth too. So kudos to y'all. But our people have been under this for so long. Our heads are messed up. Guns, drugs, alcohol. It's being pumped into our communities on a daily basis. Planned Parenthood, abortion clinics, dumbed down music is being allowed. Everything is controlled for our destruction. Now, just because they pump drugs, guns, and things in our neighborhood don't mean we have to accept it, right? It's still our responsibility to not do those things. We've been discriminated in the housing markets. And people say there's no discrimination. That's a lie. This is America. I'm not going to sit up here and lie and say that's not, because we know it is true. But they hid all the true history about us. And our history is deeper than what I'm showing y'all. I'm just trying to show y'all somewhere why y'all lost your cities and towns and states and so forth. Okay? But here's now, did you know that we also were flooded underwater? They just decided to just let the lakes go and just covered our towns up. Did you know that? To hide our history? Yeah, so some places was just too much. So they couldn't just build over there, they flooded. Here we go. Gonna get 5 of them. Shout out to Amber Ruffin. In a video clip that has now gone viral, Ruffin kicked off a segment of her Amber Ruffin show by introducing viewers to historically indigenous American towns that have been destroyed and buried by a lake or a natural park. See, and that's what I said before. A lot of the places, I'm gonna tell you, military bases too. Parks and military bases, they make them natural parks and stuff. Yes, right. They often refer to it as drowned towns. We often talked about Lake Lanier, but sadly, there's plenty more where that came from. Oscarville, Georgia. Lake Lanier is a popular weekend destination known for fishing, boating, and so much more, including an eerie reputation that has been deemed as haunted in Georgia. Okay, hold on a second. I don't know where that pop-up came from. Should not go back to this. Hold on one second. All right, so y'all see what's on my screen, right? I was trying to get into the other article, but it wouldn't allow me to get into it. There are other cities and towns that I was trying to get to. I previously could get to them, and all of a sudden it just like disappeared all of a sudden. So I don't know, is that Google or what have you? But I was able to get into them before, and I can't get into them. But look, Amber Ruffin exposes American government for sunken indigenous history. And then see, it's showing you some gravestones that's underwater. In a lot of these places, people are skiing, they're fishing in these places, and these are towns. These lakes are buried. Our cities are buried underwater in America. On the episode, the Amber Ruffin Show, she exposed the truth behind American history, informing the audience about the things that the federal government conceals in secret, not wanting the public to find out. Amber Ruffin detailed a dozen Black towns. I'm just use Black in this because I'll use the word Black for right now on this one. But we all know that we're talking about us, right? Indigenous Americans for real. Because we weren't coming off no slave ships. But I'm not using that word African American. All right. So Amber Ruffin detailed dozen Black towns that had been hidden underwater, replaced by lakes or public parks. Ruffin began her show with dozens of Black towns that had been erased off the American map, not by burning them down, but by hiding them underwater. This segment that has gone viral has everyone wondering what else has the federal government attempted to obscure from the public eye. As Griffin has her viewers digging deeper into Black history or indigenous history, many people lost complete trust in the people that are supposed to protect us. Ruffin explained that the destruction of these towns, similar to events like Tulsa race massacre, hindering opportunities for generational prosperity for Black people. Apart from the numerous Black communities that were wiped out by white supremacists, they also destroyed thriving Black towns, such as Oscarville and Seneca Village, and covered them up by hiding them underwater or replacing them with public parks. Amber Ruffin detailed how Oscarville was submerged by night riders and replaced with Lake Lanier. Oscarville was a predominantly thriving Black town located in Forsyth County, Georgia. However, Oscarville was no longer prosperous for Blacks as they were killed and forced out by whites in 1912 after 3 Black men, Robert Everett, Ernest Knox, and Oscar Daniel, were accused of rape. See? Are y'all seeing this? The same story. These were excuses made up by white folk so they can come in and destroy our cities and towns because they were peasants. They were jealous. They were just getting into America. A lot of them were still coming in. And in order for them to make room for themselves, they had to get up who? Greater who? Us. And then we were later moved to where? The projects. We live in the worst areas of the nation. We live in the projects. Why? Because they had to move the indigenous Americans somewhere, so they made projects. They took over the best places, the best lands. Because of these allegations, all 3 teenage boys were lynched. Follow the lynchings, the terrorism will be worse than ever before, as white terrorists, group called the Night Riders, had one mission: annihilate every Black person in Oscarville. In addition to forcing them out, whites would coerce Blacks into giving them their property under the threat of arson, lynching, and mob beating. You see what was going on? Am I making this up? They're telling you. I didn't even read this before. And it just told you everything I just said. Because I can see. My third eye is open. I can see, I can read right through it. I can see everything that's been happening. So all this time, they've been bringing these people in, and all our towns and cities and everything we had was taken over. They rewrite the curriculum, rewrite the history. And now I'm showing it. And I need y'all to spread this video. to everybody. Share it to everybody. Okay? I'm gonna read that part one more time. Because of these allegations, all 3 teenage boys were lynched. Following the lynchings, the terrorism would be worse than ever before, as white terrorist group called the Night Riders had one mission to annihilate every indigenous person in Oscarville. In addition to forcing them out, whites would coerce indigenous people into giving them their property under the threat of arson, lynching, or mob beatings. Now, what does that tell you? That we own the land. We own the property. It was ours. Are y'all getting this? Why are we paying taxes in our own land? Why do I have to pay a mortgage? Why do I owe this federal government any money? Everything was ours. And it was stolen. Y'all seen the movie The Fog? Y'all know what happened in the movie The Fog, right? If not, go watch the movie. They killed the people on the ship. And they took over the land that was supposed to be theirs, and they stole it. So the people in the fog, they came back to take revenge because of the people who was on that land stole everything from them. They're supposed to be the original people there. And they set up their governments and cities and everything with lies, historical lies. Go watch that movie, The Fog. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Go watch it. I know a lot of y'all seen it already. Well, that's what's going to happen in America. Because the fog is coming back. To wipe us out, to make us now believe that we are from Africa. And you give us Jesus Christ. You put a church on every corner. Give us a false deity. Go back and watch my Christian videos, y'all. I'm not done with Jesus yet. I'm not done with this Christian church by a long shot. And they want everybody to be Christians. You know why? Because they brought that here.
Town in Georgia called Oscarville.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this on social media for the last few years. And if you haven't heard of it, it's probably because it no longer exists. It's buried under Lake Lanier. 11 Alive's Latasha Gibbons has more. When we started working on this story, we set out to track down descendants of Oscarville. Weeks later, we found a family who could trace back their roots 4 generations. They shared with us stories that were handed down about what the all-Black town was like, including the night that led to its destruction. It was set on fire by night riders after they say a white woman was raped. Then later, it was covered by the body of water we now know as Lake Lanier. May Crow is buried here at this Gainesville cemetery, but the trail of destruction following her death stretches into the land surrounding Forsyth County, buried beneath these waves of Lake Lanier, where in 1912, nearly every Black resident was forced out. That includes people living in an old Black town called Oscarville. The community was formed in the late 1800s during the Reconstruction era.
There was a very strong community feeling among the Blacks. About 300 kids, children, that went to some of the schools that were the Black schools, and it was closely connected to the churches.
Georgia history teacher Lisa Crosby says Oscarville was a thriving Black community, full of carpenters, blacksmiths, and bricklayers, but farming was the top trade.
So they really had kind of a miraculous farming growth here while the rest of the state was really struggling.
But then residents were abruptly forced off their land.
So the flashpoint, I think, is 1912.
This takes us back to the death of May Crow. The 19-year-old white woman was found dead in the woods near Oscarville, presumably after being raped.
Typically, the answer to white girls being raped was go to the Black community and just start blaming people.
By nightfall, terror began to reign over Oscarville.
So from there, the rage and hatred in the community, mobs got together and they were called night riders, and they were riding throughout Oscarville and driving out the Black community.
and the night turned deadly. They were waking up by fires outside, fire bombs thrown in the church.
Filmmaker Bob Mackey recaptures those horrific nights in an upcoming television series.
Anytime anything happened, guess where everyone would go? To the church. Well, they attacked the church. People were hung, lynched.
Mackey's series features stories of direct descendants like George Rucker, who can trace his family back 4 generations to Oscarville. He tells the story of his great-grandfather, Bert Oliver, and the entire family being forced off their land.
Night riders came through. They had to leave everything. The main thing they left was property. My grandfather had 100 acres.
Rucker says many relatives died as they tried to flee.
So when they got to the Chattahoochee River, from what I understand, they were told when the mob got up on the bridge, they were told that they either had to swim or drown. Most of them didn't make it. My grandfather was one of them that did make it. He lost some brothers and sisters.
He says his relatives who survived settled in Gainesville.
What my mother told me, Bert Oliver, he would sit and tell her this story, and he would just sit and cry.
Crosby says whites in the area took over the remaining properties. She says Oscarville farmers were specifically skilled in raising poultry, which set the pace for Gainesville eventually becoming poultry capital of the world.
You have a farm already going, and you had free land, so you just take it.
Rucker says his great-grandfather married his second wife, Beulah, and they built this school that still stands in Gainesville today. By the late 1950s, the Beaufort Dam was built and Lake Lanier was formed, covering up Oscarville and swallowing most of its history.
Many believe Lake Lanier is haunted because of the high number of drownings. We spoke to officials who tell us because there is an entire town that includes structures and even forest areas with trees that are sick.
All right, y'all. I don't want to get into it being haunted and all that stuff. Okay. That's not what the story is about. This story is about indigenous people having their lands and our places taken from us. Right? That's what this is about. This is proving and showing you that Oscarville wasn't just after the Reconstruction, after the slaves. They just happened to build a town after 1865 and they had all these acres. Obviously, it was our town. And you can clearly see sometimes when you listen to stuff, you can see the hijack now. Now you can go back, you can clearly see that we were there, that we were always there, that those were our areas. And just like you saw in most of the videos that I, all the readings that I, all the articles that I looked over, it's pretty much the same story about a rape of a white, you could see that it was a rape of a white woman, but you could see that this was the theme throughout that time frame to start a riot to take over our lands. And this was, like I said, this wasn't just an accidental thing. This was going all across the country. That was showing you that we were in the areas first, that these areas were already inhabited by us. Now, a lot of these people did not make it during these so-called riots. They did not make it. A lot of people, the whole town, people were just wiped out. Now, I want y'all to think, you sitting there eating, go back in your mind, you just sit back and you're home with your family. It's just a normal day, right? You got ready for dinner. The kids did their chores and everything, did their work, whatever. Father, he worked on the farm, coming back in the house. They're about to eat dinner, wash up, eat dinner. It was just a normal night. Then all of a sudden you hear, boom, 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 people screaming and yelling. You're wondering what's going on. You look up, you jump up, you look to the windows and stuff, and you see this mob of white people coming at you, shooting, killing people at will, not knowing what the heck is going on. Kids are screaming, crying. And the only thing you can do is try to protect your family and try to, but here come these people coming in, and they coming in to steal your land. and take everything from you. So just imagine going through that and you trying to save your family. But these people did not care about your family. Like one of the articles said, they took pot shots at the people. They didn't care. It was killing you was like killing a roach. They wanted what you had. Now, as I showed y'all, they were shipping in people, European people all over the United States, coming in everywhere. So this was not a, an isolated incident. And they want you to just believe that this only happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. When in fact, this was going on all across the country. And it's sad. But this is the true history of the United States. So a lot of these lands, a lot of these places actually do belong to you. You're not African. You're not an African American. This is your homeland. And this government owes us big time because they were part of it. Just like you saw in the articles, they knew what was going on. They refused to help because they wanted us out of here. They bring in Margaret Sanger. She come along. Oh, let me help you poor people. Here, stop having babies. So we just got to get it together, y'all. Okay? We have to get it together. Because now these articles, and I want y'all, I said it before, I'm going to say it again, share this video. And I need more content creators to come out and start digging into the depths of some of these history stories before they go away. Okay? Y'all need to get in here before they start changing the wording and changing the articles, like inserting African American everywhere. And they're going to insert more later on. And as you can see, they do a lot of hijacking in the stories, just like the one with the Devil's Punch Bowl. Oh, these were slaves running. Where all these 20,000, 40,000 slaves come from? That many slaves running, coming to the devil, and y'all just murdering people. No, these were the indigenous people that, and there were wars and stuff going on, and they were murdering and killing people and taking over their lands. So these were our people that they killed. And now we're African today, y'all. So y'all really need to wake up. I know I said I blame y'all, but in the way I do and the way I don't. Because we've been brainwashed. And you've been led to believe your kids went to school when a curriculum just told them they were just slaves. But now what I do blame us for, just because they put guns and drugs and stuff in our neighborhoods, don't mean that we have to go out there and partake of their stuff. We must understand. We must teach our kids. We must teach our people to drop that stuff. That's for the demise of your own people. That's what it's for. It's a trap. It's like a mouse trap, putting cheese in the trap and giving it to you, and you think you're making money. No, they don't care about you making money because they print the money. Right? They print the money. You're not making no big dollars. You're not balling. What you're doing, you feeding dope to your people. You're getting them high strung on some chemicals. And that's the intention, to destroy us. Why do you think they dump off guns in there, in our neighborhoods? They're not manufactured in our hoods. Then they got foreign people coming in with their liquor stores on top of you in your store, selling you liquor. And the store owner got more rights than you do. And they got you believing you come from somewhere else. When the truth of the matter is, they're the ones that came from somewhere else into our lands, set up their system, and destroyed yours. We're poor because of them. And this is facts. Our people were never poor. Our people were never unemployed. We owned everything. Now the best pieces of land by the oceans and waters, they own all that now. But they didn't own it before. So come on, y'all, spread the content. And y'all know this is the truth. All right, y'all, so let's read this article right here. So it says, Forsyth County, Georgia, home of Lake Lanier, has a violent and tragic history. In the 1830s, its Cherokee inhabitants were expelled from their ancestral lands and sent away west along the Trail of Tears. More than 4,000 Cherokee died on this genocidal journey. Now, hold on, y'all. You see that? You see that? These Cherokees came from where? The same place where the lake is at was called Oscarville. See, what they want you to believe, like I said earlier, is that every Cherokee Indian or indigenous habitant went on that Trail of Tears, went on that Trail of Tears and went to Oklahoma. And that is simply not true. There was millions and millions of indigenous people from the Virginias. And all, let me tell you something. This is one landmass. They're the ones that cut it up into Georgia, Virginia, Florida, Alabama. You know, these are all new names that they came up with. But this was one big landmass, as you see it is. It wasn't split apart. So they want you to believe that, oh, this little Georgia people came out and 4,000 Cherokees died on the genocidal journey. This genocide was going on when they got here. This was the whole plan, right? The whole plan was to genocide the indigenous inhabitants of America, which is us. They've been trying it for the longest time, and I'm saying it in this video because it's fact. It's fact. Now you can see why so many people are messed up, strung out on drugs and things of that nature. It's because who planted the drugs in our neighborhoods, y'all? Who planted the guns and the alcohol? Who did this? Were we like this before the Europeans arrived? No. We were civilized people. So the blame is not all the way ours, like I just stated. I'm saying the blame is because we can't keep falling for this. But the blame is the society to keep the system that's been placed on top of us. It is their fault. Don't get me wrong. And they know it's their fault. But let's continue to read this article. In the 1830s, its Cherokee inhabitants were expelled from their ancestral lands and sent away west along the Trail of Tears. More than 4,000 Cherokee died on the genocidal journey. In 80 years in 1912, a still unsolved murder of a white woman sparked a frenzy of anti-Black violence that led to the lynching of 3 innocent Black boys and the expulsion of every single Black resident from that county. Let me tell y'all something. Do y'all see the hijack? Now we Black. Indians supposed to left, and then we Black. How did we own the town, people? See, all you gotta do is use your logic. These wasn't free from slavery. They didn't kick in 1830s. They didn't move these Cherokee and so-called Indians up there to Oklahoma, and then say, okay, you know what? We're gonna give this land to a bunch of Black slaves. Y'all, we're gonna give all these in each year. This man, you got 200 acres. This other man had another 300 acres. And these were single individuals. So don't buy the bull crap. Now you can be able to read through these stories. They weren't just Black people. These were the same indigenous people. They didn't get everybody and pull us out of here. We own towns and cities. And just like you see in the story, there were no white people. So cut the hijack out. Now they black. And look at in 1956, U.S. Army Corps engineers flooded 60 square miles of Forsyth County, including the town of Oscarville, to create Lake Lanier. Under the water went lush farmland, home shops, even a stadium, and the town cemetery. And more than 500 people have died in Georgia's deadliest lake since then. And there's the lake. They flooded these areas, y'all, because they didn't want this history to be found out. See, they want y'all to believe that the Cherokees just went on to yes, they died. But just like I showed y'all in the Devil's Punch Poll and all across the nation, the so-called Reconstruction era, they were reconstructing things because they were killing our people. And reclassifying you as something else. Black, colored, Negroes. They had to change things. We own businesses and we own shops. We own stores. We had schools. We had everything. In other words, we didn't need nothing from nobody else. We didn't need no welfare from the government. We need no public assistance. There was no such thing because we were all wealthy. We all shared, and we was not violent people against each other. And we weren't violent against these people now. These people came in the middle of the night. And we look at most of these stories, they came, that's what they did. They came in the middle of the night while people were sleeping. Our people were sleeping and slaughtered them. Then took over their lands, their buildings, their houses, their stores, their businesses, everything. The drowned city, Oscarville, Georgia, was a bustling southern town in the 1940s. It had shops, businesses, churches, historical landmarks. Yeah, the 1940s, but that's after white people took it over. Businesses, churches, historical landmarks, the Looper Speedway racetrack, acres upon acres of farmland outside the town to create Lake Lanier. The U.S. government needed the land. Those who were willing to sell, the government paid, unlike Black and indigenous residents who had been evicted from their land many years earlier. See, they paid these white folk for their land. We weren't just evicted, we were slaughtered. The Indian, the indigenous residents, just their right. It ain't no difference between it ain't no Black and indigenous residents. No. We are the indigenous resident, and this is the color of us. We are melanated people. We are the indigenous residents who have been evicted from their land. The Trail of Tears, you know that Andrew Jackson couldn't get all of us out of there to get on that little trail to go over to like I said, to Oklahoma. It's way too many, millions of us. And you divided the lands. Okay? At one point, Virginia used to be almost the whole East Coast. And Florida, you was all the way past Louisiana at one point before they divided the lands further. So these are imaginary names and imaginary lines in the first place. If you want to be real about it, they're just an illusion. There's no really state lines. It's one big landmass. And the people on it was one people. We were already here. You couldn't have got everybody, but that's what the government wants y'all to believe, y'all, that everybody got on the Trail of Tears, walked up there to Oklahoma, and now they became white people and Asian-looking people. And y'all know that's just simply not true. No way could Negroes have built these structures and houses and lands and owned businesses and had all this stuff before y'all got here. Y'all didn't want to admit that. And you still don't want, the government does not want to admit that till this day. That's why all the lies out there. Oh, we got y'all from Africa. It's funny how people from Africa knew how to farm the land in America. It's funny how they knew about the plants, how to cook the food and everything, and they ain't never been here before. It's funny they know how to, they can build the Washington monuments in DCs and all these buildings and stuff like that, but they just came out the woods in Africa, running around the woods in Africa. We had master mechanics. The first cars were built by us, not Henry Ford. And that's another video. You got to think. So you trying to tell me, see, America was the new world to the Europeans that got here. It was a place like they'd never seen before. And they admit it in some of their older books. You will see it. But they could never admit that it was actually made by us. But it's the truth. People didn't just come from around the world and get smart in America. In Europe, they had all kind of plagues and things going on. They were still dumping their sewage out the windows. These are facts. They were full of disease. They didn't have soap. They didn't even take baths, none of that stuff. This is all true. But we had all that over here already. Now, this is not to demean them, but it's just telling the truth. And I'm glad there's so many white authors out there, people that's telling the truth too about it too. They know what was going on for real. You think George Washington Carver just invented soap and peanuts and all that stuff? Man, we had people that was doing that stuff over here already. We were advanced societies already. We were civilized. And then they came along. And now we have high unemployment. We lost our land, our country, and they gave us Jesus. See, what happens is they come into your country, they got one side of them, they coming in to destroy you, right? And they think about now, the same thing is being played out all over the world right now. For instance, if you look at Iraq, they go into Iraq and they blow up the people, they kill millions of people, right? The children are left behind. What happens next? They send in the Red Cross and these Christian missionaries, providing food, giving them the Bible, telling them to believe in Jesus. Kids, they hungry, scared. Why? Because the other arm of them is the ones that's destroying and killing. So they come in, and then they get the rest of the, and they feed them Christianity, and they convert to Christianity, and they having the beliefs because they act like they're the good people. Meanwhile, it's one big arm. It's one big whole system. One side comes to destroy, the other one's waiting on the other side to give them relief of the victims. And they bring in the churches and so forth, Jesus and the Bible, and teach them about the love of Christ and all this kind of stuff, and about sin. And then the minds of the people are converted over, telling you that your people now are in a better place. They're in heaven now. Their whole families, their whole towns and centers, everything about them has been destroyed. All the elders have been wiped out. All their history has been wiped out. So now, only thing you got left is to teach but the children. And then you teach them your ways, brainwashing them. And so now the kids don't know nothing. or whatever you told them. And now the kids are now black. Oh, we brought you here from Africa. Now, how would the children know? How would the children know? Especially if they're real small. Because they got rid of the elders, anybody that can tell them about their true history. Now you're gonna hear what they told you, whatever the indoctrination is that they give you. And don't is that and isn't that exactly what the school system is doing today? I mean, I'm just being real on this channel. That's what the school system is doing today. It's not telling the true history of this nation. Right? And like I said, I'm proving you that the Catholic Church and their Christianity is false. And that's easy to prove. I already just watch my virgin birth video. Watch Who is the Messiah. Watch all those videos I did on Christianity so far. Just go check them out. Get your Bible and follow. Because we're not near done with that yet. I'm going to keep saying that. So why all the lies? That's what I want to know. We got a system that's over top of us that lie to us and continue to lie to us. And then they give you this character, this God, that they said Jesus is love. And he loves everybody. But they brought him over here. They brought Christmas over here. And all those traditions, Valentine's Day, Halloween. We wasn't doing none of this stuff. The customs of the people are vain. And now they got the people following the customs, the traditions, calling themselves Africans. And you know full well that that's not who they are. You know full well you're looking at the indigenous rightful landowners of America. You want to believe that there was nobody that looked like us that was here. But those towns prove it. That's like we read. All those towns were all us. And then after they murdered and lynched the people, the towns then became all white. They took over. Oscarville, Georgia was a bustling southern town in the 1940s. It had shops, businesses, churches, historical landmarks, the Loop of Speed racetrack, acres upon acres of farmland outside of town to create Lake Lanier. The U.S. government needed the land. Those who were willing to sell, the government paid. Unlike the indigenous Americans, residents who had been evicted from their land many years, slaughtered from their land earlier. Buildings that could be moved were moved. And many families' cemeteries had their remains disinterred and relocated. But buildings that were too difficult to move were left behind, as were countless unmarked graves and few abandoned cemeteries. The stadium seating from the Lupa Speedway emerges like a ghost from the water during droughts. And a lot of our people are still buried. So there is a drowned city at the bottom of the lake in there. It's filling up with drowned people too. So I'm not gonna read all this other stuff. About all of this so-called spooky stuff, because then they're trying to make a little spooky story out of it. So I'm just gonna end it right there. All right, y'all. So yeah, that's gonna be on this part. But I just wanted y'all to see this on the Oscarville. So they paid the when the Caucasians took it over, they eventually, and it was acres upon acres of land that used to be all ours. Historical landmarks. Whose historical landmarks? Our whole history has been destroyed in this country. But videos like this one is going to wake the people up. there were a lot more towns that are underwater. Some places are even dumps where they dump, a dump site. Just covered up. Some of these big old dump sites you see where they got trash, they haul trash and they dump them in this real giant size. Some of them look like pyramids, don't they? It could be a pyramid under that. But there are more cities in the United States that are underwater. Missing black towns. Look at this. Lost black towns. Greenwood, Oklahoma, Freedmantown, Texas, Houston, Little Harlem, Rosewood, Freeman Village, Virginia. Oh, the nation of Safe Haven, New Philadelphia, Illinois, Pioneer Town and Frontier, Black Dawn, New Mexico, the Black Ghost Town. See, they came in here and slaughtered a whole bunch of us, y'all. The biggest massacre that ever occurred came in the Americas. And to our people. And if all of y'all alive today, y'all are survivors. Y'all come from survivors today. They've been doing Tuskegee experiments on us. Margaret Sanger with Planned Parenthood, putting abortion clinics in our neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. That's right. Look at this, y'all. Here she is. Birth control or race control. Sanger and the Negro Project. You see? And this was 1930s, 1939. So you see, all this is taking place relatively not that long ago. And so y'all, we were taught in the 1860s, 1820s, we was on the cotton fields picking slaves for white people. They was beating us and all this kind of, dude, the white people were just arriving. The majority of white people came after that. But if you're going to believe these slavery stories, then that's the problem with us. We believe these false slavery stories. So here's the Negro Project, instigated in 1939 by Margaret Sanger, was one of the first major undertakings of the new Birth Control Federation of America. The product of a merger between American Birth Control League and Sanger's Birth Control Clinical Research Bureau is one of more controversial campaigns of birth control movement, developed by white birth control reformers who consulted with African Americans for help in promoting the project only well after its inception. Then they got the Negro. The Negro Project associated campaigns were nevertheless widely supported by such Black leaders as Mary McLeod Bethune, W.E. Du Bois, and Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Now, see, first of all, they always use paid Negroes to bring you down. That's why you don't trust any celebrities, anybody in power, anybody has money that they prop up. You can't trust these people. Now, I can't verify that this has happened or not, because a lot of these articles have been tainted. Just like you see the word African American in there now, right? Yeah, you're gonna call it the Negro Project, but then it's called the Negro Project. It wasn't called the African American Project or the African Project. But see, that's coming from slavery, right? But we already disproving that now. So we own the town. So why would Margaret Sanger want to come and have eugenics against us, birth control? They was already killing us, as I showed you. They was already wiping out our cities and towns and burning them underwater, burning them, shooting them, killing them. As they stand, the government wouldn't do anything about it. The police wouldn't do anything about it. So now you're coming with birth control. We got to get rid of these people. There's too many of them. Remember, we've been reclassified too as Negro, colored, and Black, because they already got the accepted amount of Indians on the Dawes Road. And now that they're white now. Forget the definition. And remember Siri in the beginning of this video, she wouldn't even read out the definition. Because she white too. Let's keep reading. So the Negro Project was from the start largely indifferent to the needs of the Black community and constructed in terms with white perceptions today smack of racism. What it became was not the project Sanger had first envisioned. As she wrote in an initial fundraising request to Albert Lasker, the wealthy advertising executive just beginning his post-business career in medical philanthropy, she simply hoped to help a group of notoriously underprivileged and handicapped to a large measure a caste system that operates as an added weight upon their efforts to get fair share of their better things in life. To give them the means of helping themselves is perhaps the richest gift of all. Oh, really? So you're gonna give us birth control? We already had the best things of life, Margaret Sanger. We owned everything. So what do you mean you're gonna help us out? You came and stole everything. Now you're gonna, so now you like the cabinet, what you call them, the Sour Patch Kids. You do something bad, and then you turn around and act like you're saving it, then you do something good. Right? How did you get established, Margaret Sanger? You come from where people stole our towns and cities and everything. And these are the facts. To give them the means of helping themselves is perhaps the richest gift of all. We believe birth control knowledge brought up to this group, talking about the Negro, is the most direct constructive aid that can be given to them to improve their immediate situation. What is our situation? You are a situation. Sanger viewed the Negro Project as another effort to help African Americans or indigenous people gain better access to safe contraception and maintain birth control services in their community, as she had attempted to do in Harlem a decade earlier when Sanger's Birth Control Clinical Research Bureau, in cooperation with the New York Urban League, opened a birth control clinic there. We didn't ask you to put a birth control clinic in our neighborhood. And now they're all over our neighborhoods. By the late 1930s, the birth control activists began to focus on high birth rates and poor quality of life in South, and learning to alarming Southern poverty by 1938. U.S. National Resource Committee reported, which asserted that Southern poverty drained resources from other parts of the country. Starting in the mid-1930s, Sanger sent field workers into the rural South to establish birth control services in poor communities, AKA our communities, and conduct research, testing. She sought to test various contraceptive jellies and foam powders to see if they could effectively be used without a diaphragm, which would be cheaper and easier for poor women to use. So now all of a sudden we are poor people. How did we get that way? See? Do you see the hijack? See, when you put all this stuff together, you'll see the truth about everything. And you think it's changed today? I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just showing y'all some stuff, okay? I ain't got time. Y'all can research the rest of that yourselves. Oh, boy. So now I'm going to your girl, Melinda Gates. Let's bring it up to where we are today. Okay. I'm not gonna get that one in there. Gonna bring it up to your girl. All right. There she is. There's Melinda. Melinda Gates says Black people must be vaccinated first, COVID-19 after healthcare workers. So y'all see the thing that just happened, right? And okay, Melinda Gates said that Black people should be first in line after healthcare workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19. She said that, true. Why should we be first in line, Melinda Gates? Why do we have to be first in line? I want to know. This thing came all across the world, all over everywhere in the world. But when it came to America, it said, you know what? I think Black people need to get it. I think we need to get this thing to these people first. Now, I'm going to let y'all know something. Y'all know this is true. When that thing first hit this country, y'all know it did not touch us at all. We were saying it must be happening to only white people because none of us, nobody had it. And y'all know that to be true. We were saying it everywhere. People in Africa, nobody, go look at it. Africa, nobody in Africa was getting that. And we weren't getting it here. They said, as a matter of fact, it started in where? The what was those little homes, those Asian homes where old folk go? Let's read this article. Melinda Gates said that indigenous people should be first in line after healthcare workers to be vaccinated against the 19. In June 2020, social media users shared a meme containing the text that claimed that Melinda Gates said Black Americans must be first in line to receive the potential vaccine for coronavirus just after medical workers. It's basically saying the same thing. Melinda Gates said Black people should be first in line after health. Okay, it's almost saying the same thing. So they'll stop trying to act like they're saints. What do these people got to do with vaccines? Gates and her husband, Microsoft co-founder Billy Gates, run a public health advocacy nonprofit called Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She said they say that Black people must be vaccinated after healthcare workers, but rather suggest they should be given known deleterious effects of the virus on people of color. Her comment came to response to question the Time magazine journalist who asked who needs a potential COVID-19 vaccine. After healthcare workers, in response to the question, she said this: in the US, that would be Black people. Next, quite honestly, and many other people of color. Why, Melinda? Why? Can COVID see? Can COVID tell what people look like? They are having disproportionate effects from COVID-19. From their people with underlying health conditions, and then people who are, oh, hold on for a second, y'all. This article, when was this article? This article is in June 2020. When did the virus start in America, y'all? It came in after January, right? February, March, April. So how would she know through studies that it's going to affect us more than anybody else? You didn't have enough data for that by June 2020, Melinda. See, they are having disproportionate effects from the 19, from their people with underlying health conditions, and then people who are older. Those are the ones who need it first. So even before the older folk, we were supposed to get it first. Still, that's what she's saying, that we should be getting it first. And I remember, so I talked to my friend that I work with, and they were coming in trucks in their neighborhoods with the jab. in our neighborhood, in our neighborhood, indigenous neighborhoods. Who are keeping our grocery stores open for us so we can buy food, and who are making sure that food moves through the warehouses. Her statement references the data that show Black people have a higher risk of dying from the 19 than white people. Really? How did you have that how did she get that data by 2020? June. We were just starting lockdowns. However, some people on social media gave the comment conspiratorial meaning. Here's one such example with the user's name. So they're trying to protect these people now. So no matter, this is not protecting y'all, because you still said it. And it makes no sense. You wouldn't know that by June. You didn't have enough time to know that information. The reference to the Tuskegee above refers to Tuskegee study in which U.S. government used Black indigenous men as a test subject in a 40-year study about untreated syphilis, in which they were not told researchers were actually treating them for the disease. And that wasn't, and I'm gonna tell y'all something. That wasn't the only, syphilis wasn't the only thing that they did. They told our people that we had bad blood. I think it was in North Carolina. This government has been doing this to the indigenous population the whole time. And it's the truth. You've been doing experiments the whole time. So we shouldn't be the first to do anything. And I hope most of y'all didn't do it. I mean, oh boy, why would we be the ones dying from something that came across the world? I mean, what happened to all the white people that were in Europe that was dying from it? In Italy, this thing came all across the world and was supposed to be ravaging people. But then when it came to America, it decided to jump on so-called Black people or African Americans first. How stupid do you think we are? Anyway, y'all want to see what y'all president said? Let's see what Joe Biden says.
It is doomed, not just because of African Americans, but because by 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. You hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics.
Joe
Who
shows
make up a
colors.
larger portion of the population, you all do.
All right, y'all. So y'all heard what the president said. He said this country is doomed, not just because African Americans. You doomed the country, Mr. Biden. He said it's going to become minority white. Yeah, now y'all can see how come that it is, right? They're bringing in immigrants all across the country still, right? But it's doomed because of African Americans? Really? And it's going to become, and he said, y'all have to start working with the Hispanics. Why? Because you're bringing them in. You're acting like you don't want them in, but you're bringing them in and you're paying them health care. You're doing all this other stuff. Why? Because, you know, Spanish is what? A European language. Spain. Right? Anything to get rid of the so-called African American. So on the news, you see the so-called African Americans, they're breaking into stores. They do it. You see all the kind of stuff on the news, you know, robbing stores or breaking into stores. And yeah, we think that's atrocious, and it is. But the true history of this country was way worse than that, than somebody breaking in the store, grabbing something off the shelf. They stole our land, our homes, killed our families, murdered our people. Our people's blood is in the ground. Their homes is in the ground, underwater, burnt down, paved over. And then you say that I'm racist. No, I'm just telling you the truth. The truth that y'all want to keep hidden. I'm trying to wake my people up. I'm trying to wake everybody up to the truth of the history of this country. You want to feed us Black History Month? A bunch of bull crap on a spoon. You want to give us 1 month out of the year? How you going to give us 1 month out of the year when we were here already? American history is our history. Remember, there's a difference between the United States and America. United States is a corporation that landed on top of America, AKA Turtle Island, our homeland, the motherland, the promised land. Oh, we're going to get into that too, because we got a lot more to go. That's why everybody wants to come here, because everybody wasn't allowed here first, but they came on boatloads and shiploads, and they're still coming to the land of the brave and the free. Meanwhile, the indigenous people in this land are on the bottom in their own country, in their own land. We have lost everything, pretty much everything. We lost everything. I don't care if you say, oh, well, you got a football player, he makes $1 billion a year. Man, that's cut down trees. That's paper. Please. Who owns the printing press? Well, Michael Jordan, he's got, shut up. Do you understand how deep this is? This is way deeper than a football player or a basketball player. Well, he's the first, he's the first Black player to ever play on the team. And I'm tired of that too. Why are you upholding because somebody allowed you saying you're the first Black this or you're the first Black this? Stop that nonsense. Stop getting excited because white people allowed you to do something with them, so you celebrate that. And now this Black history. Cut that nonsense out. Because they allow you to do something with them, now that's history. We sound stupid celebrating something like that. We owned the country for thousands of years before they even got here. We had cities and towns before they got here. They didn't just build them. But they want you to believe that that's what happened. And it's not true. We were civilized before they came. The Americans got the oldest pyramids, the Olmecs, the Aztecs, the Incas. We got everything here. And they want you to believe you're the first Black person that did something. Stop falling for that foolishness. Now it's time for y'all to wake up. Stop calling yourself Black and stop calling yourself African American. Because those names were given to you. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to make this thing too much longer than this. So I'm about to close it out. I just want y'all to wake up. It's time to smell the coffee. Because right now in the coffee's burning in the pot. It's boiling. The coffee's burnt. It's way past time. Y'all should be telling your history for real and stop falling for the bullcrap. Tell these other people who came in your land who you are. And it's time for us to get together and come together, because a great travesty has been done to us. We've been lied to in all kinds of ways. And they want all of us to just follow suit and believe their illusions. Hollywood is Hollywood for a reason. And a television is telling you a lie to your vision, to get into your brain, to program you. You're the one being programmed. They call it TV programming. And they're casting, they have a cast, right? They have a TV cast. Why? Because they're casting a spell on you, the viewer. See, we've been lied to what an Indian was, who Pocahontas looked like. Everything's been totally changed. And now, we just black people, or colored, Negro, now African American. Reclassification continues. As you can see, they put it all through. Now you can't read nothing. I mean, you see the hijack though, right? You see the Negro all through there, right? In the newspapers, you don't see the word African American, but in the new writings, they call the people African Americans. And that's thanks to Obama. But he's a puppet. He came in to do his job. He made you believe that he was one of you. He came in here, fooled you, pimped, talked cool, act cool, but did nothing. Made sure you got health care so then they can tax you on it. Yeah, you got free health care. Oh, yeah, okay. Now you got to pay, if you don't fill out the tax thing, now you got to pay taxes on that, right? Thank you, Obama. But when you came in, we didn't need health care. That's not what we was crying about. People were losing their houses because of the foreclosure crisis that was going on. And then all of the people that were shot under your watch. Trayvon Martin. But you didn't fool me. Anyway, so y'all don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I mean, this is a sad video for real, to be honest with you. Because when you go through all the people, dude, our people are buried in under these waters. Our people were murdered. Towns were wiped out. People running for their life. People being coerced to get rid of their, give me your house, give me your land, and I'll let you live. I'm gonna take your life if you don't give me your land. And they went on and took everything by blood. And now there's so many people that are dead. The devil's punch bowl. They put the women and children in there. How cruel is that, our people, to have women and children and just and then bring in smallpox disease to kill them off? How evil are you? Well, I guess when you want something, when you covet something that somebody else has that bad, when you want the land for yourself, you wipe out the inhabitants. But nobody never told you the Indian was you. They look like me. They gave you, Hollywood gave you the false Indian. And then called you black people or colored or slaves. Anyway, I can go on. Y'all don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this video. And this is the Truth Seeking Network. Peace till next time. And I'm out.